hearing from without hearing from our amiable, indefatigable chair. So I will call on Ms. Efosa Ewere, to please give us her goodwill message.
Thank you so much, my chair planning committee. I always make that mistake. Okay, President and Chairman of Council, Mrs. Funmi Ekundayo, FCIS. The Vice President, Mrs. Uto Okpana, FCIS. The Honorary Treasurer, Mr. Francis Olawale, FCIS. Distinguished members of the Governing Council of Icsan. Our speakers, Dr. Irene Robinson Ayawale, Olufemi Shobanjo, Mudrakat Alabi McFoy, Bukola Coles James, ACIS, the Registrar of the Institute, Mr. Babatunde Oladipo Okuneye, ACIS, the immediate past President, the immediate past Chairman of Icsan Lagos State Chapter, Mr. Olufemi Shokon, FCIS, our past presidents and past chairman of chapters, fellows of the institutes, chairman of professional bodies present, ESCO members, the members of Icsan, non-members, our special guests. It is with great pleasure that I welcome you all to this 2025 business meeting. I bring you warm greetings from the Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria, Lagos State Chapter. And as a professional body, we are committed to advancing excellence in governance, corporate administration, and ethical leadership. Icsan as a body is deeply invested in the evolving discourse of environmental, social, and governance standards. And just like the chair of the planning committee just said, this is one topic or one area of practice where we seem to relegate to CSR. With environmental, social, and governance standards, which we popularly call ESG, we can say that with this business meeting, we are both timely in discussing this very good topic, which is very relevant to Nigerian businesses. And the essence of having us discuss this topic is to help Nigerian businesses navigate that complex terrain of sustainability, compliance, and stakeholders' accountability. You all will agree with me that ESG reporting is no longer a distant global ideal. It's something that has begun to creep into our society and has come to stay. So it's now strategically imperative for us to consciously adopt this practice to help boost investment decisions, reputation, branding, and also comply with regulatory expectations. As the team will suggest, or rightly suggest, this journey is not just about challenges. This discourse is also about opportunities where we have to rethink if the framework we have is of relevance to us, if they are easy for adaptability, and where we can, as professionals, begin to build new competencies and reposition Nigerian organizations as globally competitive entities, while it is driven by transparency and sustainability. I commend the planning committee chair led by Ms. Folake Sadiq, ACIS, and also the program subcommittee chair, Blessing Choko, ACIS, for curating such a vital conversation. We encourage all participants to not only engage deeply, but also listen attentively, to learn and make decisions decisively in their areas of work. Can you hear me?
Good morning. Please, I'm in a meeting.
Can you mute yours? So I would say we encourage everyone to join us to champion this responsible governance and drive the culture of ESG and integrate this across all sectors. So thank you everyone for joining us, and I wish every one of us a fruitful and impactful deliberation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I will now swiftly go ahead to introduce our moderator, Mrs. Bukola James Cole. Bukola James Cole is a financial and capital market expert with over 2 decades, 20, no, over 2 decades 20 years of practice and experience in the capital market sector. She's currently with Africa Prudential PLC as the Director of Capital Markets. So you see that we don't have any small people here. Thank you very much, Bukola, and over to you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair of this conference. Okay, let's quickly dive into it. Good morning, everyone. Madam Chairman, council members present, speakers, and our esteemed audience. On behalf of Icsan and our organizing team, I want to warmly welcome us today for this webinar, Strategic ESG Insights for Business Growth and Long-Term Value Creation. We are honored to have you join this conversation on how ESG can move beyond compliance, become a catalyst for innovation, competitive advantage, and sustainable value creation. But before we delve into it, I'd like to introduce our special, experienced, insightful speakers who would come and do the great job by bringing and breaking ESG into bits that will make us understand the reason why ESG has become a phenomenal, thing in the country and globally today. I'll start with Olufemi Shobanjo. Olufemi Shobanjo is the Chief Executive Officer of NGX Regulation, the regulatory arm of Nigerian Exchange Group PLC, with 20 years of experience across corporate law, compliance, banking, financial markets. He previously led broker-dealer regulation at the Nigerian Exchange Group, at the time Nigerian Stock Exchange, overseeing 250 firms. His career includes key compliance roles at Anglo-Irish Bank and HSBC in the UK. Olufemi holds law degrees from the University of Birmingham, Cardiff Law School, and is an alumnus of the Lagos Business School. He's a member of multiple professional bodies, including the Nigerian Bar Association and Chartered Institute of Securities and Investments, UK. I'll also like to introduce Mudrakat Alabi McFoy. Mudrakat Alabi McFoy is a sustainability and social impact expert with nearly 10 years of experience integrating environmental, social, and governance principles across corporate and development sectors. With a legal foundation and certification from Corporate Finance Institute, she designed and leads sustainability strategies aligned with global standards, such as the UN SDGs and the GRI. Mudrakat has delivered impactful programs across Nigeria, focusing on climate action, circular economy, and ESG risk management. She is passionate about mobilizing stakeholders, building partnerships, and driving systemic change to foster inclusive, sustainable development. And Dr. Irene Robinson Ayowale is a multi-award winning legal practitioner, also a recognized thought leader in regulation, compliance, corporate governance, and ESG, with over 20 years of experience across Africa's financial and legal sectors. She has held pivotal roles at the Nigerian Exchange Limited, where she championed groundbreaking sustainability programs and governance reforms. Currently, the group head of legal, audit, compliance, risk, and sustainability at the Omni Retail, Africa's fast-growing company in 2024. She also leads the legal ESG collective supportive startup with its sustainable legal frameworks. A mentor and advocate for inclusive growth, Dr. Robinson continues to shape policy and practice through her leadership, training, and community building initiatives across the continent. And there you have our speakers who will take us through this exciting and insightful topic. And so we dive straight into the topic. Our theme for today is strategic ESG insights for business growth and long-term value creation. We will be running this conversation in 2 interactive rounds with our esteemed panelists. We'll go with the first round to ensure we focus on setting the stage. We'll look at the key ideas, framework, and insights. And then round 2 will take us deeper into real-life applications, trends, and stakeholder collaboration. Can we have everybody mute their mics, please? Admin, can you also help us mute the mics of people who are in attendance and so that we do not disrupt this session? Thank you very much. Dr. Irene, I will be starting with you. I will begin with Dr. Irene, a respectable leader in compliance, governance, and ESG strategy. I'd like you to give us key points on positioning ESG as a strategic business enabler, not just a regulatory requirement. Also, is it possible you align ESG with our cost business strategy today? And then what would be the board's role in shaping the ESG governance? Dr. Irene, please kick off. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Bukola, for that question, 3-pronged question, but I'll try as much as possible to shrink the response within the period of time given. So first of all, I'll start from the perspective of how do you move ESG away from just a compliance exercise or program or a regulatory checklist or a tick box that you are just trying to comply with, and actually move it into the strategic place it belongs. Now, we first have to understand that, ESG actually is what would give a company competitive advantage, and that enables that company to be able to not only operate successfully for the now, but also for the tomorrow. Now, why do I say so? First of all, if you look at it even from the regulatory landscape, you find out that whether it is now the IFRS S1 and S2 that has now been made mandatory in Nigeria with the first set of kickoff for 2027, or to the EU's CSRD, as well as to even the US and the regulations they are bringing around sustainability. Now, what those legislations have done basically is to require companies to ensure that they are also reporting ESG compliance along their value chain. Now, a lot of companies within Nigeria belong to the value chain of various international companies. So whether you are one of those that are supplying raw materials to companies, or you are the one providing recruitment resources or technology,
There seems to be a network glitch. Let's give her a few seconds, please.
Okay, while we're giving her a few seconds to come back, I would like to quickly recognize the president on the call, Mrs. Fumi Akindayo, FCIS, the honorary treasurer, Mr. Francis Olawale, FCIS, our past president, Mr. Akim Ogunero, FCIS, and Ms. Ronke Obajobi, FCIS. You're all welcome.
You're all welcome. Thank you, Madam Chair. Dr. Irene, do we have you back? If we are unable to get her back, I'll quickly move to Mudra Katz Alabi McFoy. Mudra Katz, thanks for being on this panel. I'd like you to take us a little bit on key points, particularly relating
Hello,
to...
I'm so sorry.
Okay, I think we have her back.
I'm so sorry, I'm back. I sincerely apologize.
It was a
so I was
network.
saying that, yes, network. So I think I'll put off my camera to ensure that it doesn't trip off again. So I was saying that if, for example, if you look at Unilever, they have indicated that by 2030, they intend to ensure that they have a net zero effect across their value chain, across their supply chain. Now, what this means is that companies within that value chain and supply chain, Nigerian companies, whether it's in terms of their agricultural practices, whether it's in terms of their energy efficiency, whether it's in terms of their carbon emission, they are going to be given certain targets with respect to how they will feed into that multinational supply chain. And so those are part of the reasons why you have to move away from looking at ESG as a compliance. First and foremost, it may be the game changer with respect to whether or not you keep your current partnerships or contracts that you have. Now, secondly, it's important to understand that what ESG also does is it enables or gives companies access to cheaper financing, and it also attracts investors. Every company is always looking for funding, whether it's in terms of funding from investors trying to find equity investment, or in terms of debt funding. And ESG and having that ESG embedded into your corporate strategy will ensure that you're able to access cheaper financing. Even in terms of product innovation, in terms of creating new products, you'll find out that if you embed ESG into your corporate strategy, it will help you in terms of product innovation. So I'll give you some examples. Now, for cheaper financing, the company I'm currently with, Omni Retail, we announced yesterday that we have been able to raise 20 million USD in Series A fundraising from investors such as non-fund. Now, one of the reasons why it was very such fundraising was possible was simply because if you look at our business model has embedded in it ESG strategies and initiatives, whether it's in terms of the youth empowerment that our network creates, or in terms of job creation that our network creates, or financial inclusion that our network creates, or carbon reduction. So we have been able to access those types of funding. I am also general counsel to a program called Cascador. Now, Cascador has committed to providing 2 million USD in investment funds to qualifying mid-stage impact-driven startups who are able to run through that program. So you can see that in terms of strategy, just being able to attract those cheap funding or even investments. We all know about Access Bank and its W initiative for women. Now, that W initiative is off the back of the fact that they were able to get low interest funding, low interest loans from sustainable funds outside the country, who are now able to give them those funds at such rates that they were able to lend to women-based programs. So you can see that just in terms of that in itself, we have moved ESG away from just compliance to something that can help you create financing. Even in terms of product innovation, we all talk about Tesla and how Tesla share price at least was increasing at some point in time before certain issues happened. But the very business model of Tesla, as we know it, is based on E being to reduce carbon emissions by introducing electric cars. We also have a company like Flour Mills of Nigeria, which has decided to start exploring agricultural waste being turned into alternative fuel in order to be an alternative to fossil fuel. So again, that's an example of people that have turned their business model into something that is able to create products that can actually bring about revenue diversification. We also have situations in which companies have introduced renewable energy. Now, a lot of people have looked at renewable energy just from the perspective of, to reduce carbon emissions, to be able to tell the story about that I'm under E. But the truth is that those early adopters of the renewable energy were able to see costs, were able to cut their costs. So by the time fossil fuel began to increase in pricing, what happened to those who had already integrated renewable energy into their energy pipeline? They were able to see a reduction in costs as a result of those types of things. Also in terms of an alternative form of revenue, because for those that were able to implement and integrate renewable energy, one of the things that they have been able to do is to actually participate in the carbon credit offset markets, as well as renewable certificates markets. So we can see that these are just small examples of how you begin to look at the fact that what ESG does, once you're able to embed it into your corporate strategy, is that it changes the dynamics of your company. It helps you with product innovation. It helps you attract capital. It helps you even with, in terms of employee engagement. Now, we know the Gen Zs of today are very conscious about where they work and the types of terms and conditions of what they work. The S, for example, under ESG has to do, part of the principles under the S is human capital management. What type of labor practices are you engaging in? Is there gender balance within your organization? Is there equitable pay within your organization? Do you have fair terms of work-life balance and things like that? All of these things are important to the Gen Zs that are becoming a very large part of the employment levels within the organizations. And so you find out that as a result of companies being able to integrate and come up with policies around the S that have to do with human capital management, it helps them to be able to attract and retain the right set of talents. So those are just examples, as it were, from the side around trying to ensure that you move ESG from compliance into that strategic advantage, recognizing that there are various aspects of your business that can be transformed as a result of it. Now, in terms of the question around aligning ESG with your corporate strategy, how do you do it? We keep on hearing about it. I'm going to merge that response with the board's role in terms of it. Now, what are the first steps of things you do? And this is important because the board also plays a role in that first step. In order for you to align ESG with your corporate strategy, you usually need to do what we call like a double materiality assessment or a risk assessment around your ESG issues. Now, for you to be able to do that kind of risk assessment or double materiality assessment, that has to be something that the board needs to mandate. The board needs to insist and say, see, we need to embed ESG into our corporate strategy, and we recognize that the first step into doing that is to carry out a double materiality assessment to identify what are the ESG issues that are critical to our business. Now, in carrying out that double materiality assessment, what it means is that you are going to reach out to various stakeholders within your business. You're going to reach out to your investors, you're going to reach out to your suppliers, you're going to reach out to your employees, you're going to reach out to your customers and find out to them that in terms of our business, our products, all the things that we offer, our operations, our activities, what are the critical aspects or areas that you feel are necessary for us to be able to implement in order to ensure that we are able to carry out our operations effectively. And usually I tell people that when you're carrying out that double materiality assessment and the risk assessment, what you're really doing is applying PESTLE and SWOT and the five Potter's five forces in terms of identifying the issues under the E, the issues under the S, the issues under the G. If, for example, you're a company that is into manufacturing, that means you need raw materials. Raw materials is a major supply aspect of your business. But the E for you, for example, is around where am I getting my products from? Where I'm getting my products from, are there issues around climate? Are there issues around the capability for me to have increased crop yield? Will I be able to have the quality of the products I want? Especially because of now, regulation now is very stringent around the types of products you can bring in for your raw materials. So those are the kind of issues that your risk assessment and your double materiality assessments will do. And the board is very critical in ensuring that you carry this out. Now, once the board has done this, then the board then agrees and says, okay, these are the core ESG areas that we as a business were prioritizing. It could be product, it could be plastics, it could be anything. For example, Unilever's board has decided that the core 5 priorities as a business is plastics, it's livelihood, it's those types of issues. So the board has to come up and decide on those issues. Now, when it has done that, what then happens is that it then creates KPIs, metrics off the back of those critical areas it has done, and it gives those KPIs and metrics to the executive management to say, okay, these are the KPIs and the metrics around our ESG that we are going to be tracking you on. And then executive compensation is also then tied into those metrics so that there is a motivation on the part of the exco to ensure that they get it done. Then the board is meant to come up with a committee that is responsible for overseeing and ensuring that those KPIs and those metrics are being implemented on a regular basis so that reporting then comes into the board. Then beyond that, then they also have to ensure that they put ESG and the tracking of those metrics and KPIs as a standing item on the agenda. So if you're a board that sits maybe quarterly, you have to ensure that quarterly is a standing item that is there, where you are tracking and ensuring that what is the progress being done, the milestones we have set for you with respect to this, have you met it, have you not met it? Then another important thing is also to ensure that, I said before that now it's mandatory in Nigeria, and that reporting is going to start from 2027 and it's going to be phased. But you don't want to wait until when it is time before you start testing as to whether or not you have the ability to actually integrate, S1 and S2 into your financial reporting. So another thing that the board can do is to start ensuring that right now they integrate already into their financial reports. Then the last thing I would say is that you have to ensure that during your annual board reviews, as we know, annual board reviews is mandatory. Now, part of what the board will be assessed on is its ESG oversight and what effort it has made into ensuring that these things have been achieved. So I know that time has almost run out, but these are some of the points to note. Thank you, Bukola.
Wow, thank you so much, Doctor. Doctor has successfully assisted with giving us the base, for positioning ESG as a strategic business leader. She has also gone ahead to assist us in helping us understand that we need to align ESG with our core business strategy. And most importantly, one thing I got from what she said is that it has helped create a catalyst to attract funding and then to create financing, because she said that about our organization, because they have rootly tied to the ESG model. They were, a beautiful bride to attract financing. I think that's something we should note. And then next, we're going to come to Mudra Katz, who will help us to lay on these points that Doctor has come up with. Can you also help us with the common challenges a Nigerian business faces, especially the SMEs? Also, in terms of transparency, data quality, and greenwashing concerns, what do we have to say? And finally, how do we now leverage ESG for investor attraction and innovation, in addition to what Doctor has taken us through? Thank you. Mudra Katz, over to you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. If you noticed, I was just nodding when Doctor was speaking because, she was ticking all the boxes, and I was like, yes, 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 yes. I think that it is important, at least when I'm working with small businesses, one of the foundations that I try to lay is the foundation of systems thinking. And that's basically a concept where you need to pay attention to the interactions and feedback loops of your organization or your company and understand the root causes of the challenges that you may have. When you understand those root causes, it's an easier process to implement ESG, and it's easier to make that implementation effective. Another thing, I think this is a point that goes across board in Nigeria, and that's the challenge with data collection. There is a data gap in a lot of industries across Nigeria. That's something that we are only just starting to build and starting to see the importance of. The lack of consistent internal systems to track ESG related metrics and KPIs are not always present in organizations. So that's a key challenge that comes up when you think about ESG implementation and reporting. And there is also, which is why forums like this are important, there is also a gap in knowledge and expertise. For a lot of businesses that I come in contact with, they have this abstract understanding of what ESG or sustainability is. So you have to break that down and let them know that some businesses already have factors and metrics that they run just as a result of their business practices, but they do not understand how to classify it under environmental. They don't understand how to classify it under social or governance. And also those little gaps is what I try to fill and what is important to know. So when starting with ESG implementation or reporting, we shouldn't underestimate the knowledge that the potential ESG implementators have. We need to start from the beginning, make it as basic as possible so they can understand it and they can understand what other activities or steps they need to take to ensure that they fit into the different pillars of ESG. One practical example that I can give was when I interacted with Lafarge and maybe other cement companies like Dangote. One thing I noticed is that they don't, for a cement company now, if their carbon emission, the activities give large carbon emissions, and it's a key concern for most of the cement industries. And if they don't have sensors, if they don't have the right monitoring technologies to see how to quantify their carbon emissions, talk less of reducing it, then we have a gap. We have a massive gap under the environmental pillar of ESG. There are also standardization issues, which is why I was happy that Dr. raised the fact that the two different standards have been implemented in Nigeria is looking to be like is looking to take off in 2027, because right now there are different standards that we have, and that can cause confusion. There are different requirements for these standards, and that can cause confusion for small businesses and everything. If we have a unified, within Nigeria, peculiar to the Nigerian business scene, if we have our own unified national ESG reporting standard, then businesses would find it easier to prioritize what is key and material to the Nigerian scene in the different industries. I also think that some of these SMEs, they don't realize the importance of ensuring that there is a compliance department or personnel within their organization. Because the one thing that is key is monitoring and evaluating at every point. So you are checking, it just started raining at my end. Can you all hear me clearly still? Okay.
Yes,
right.
you're audible.
Fantastic.
Please proceed.
Okay, fantastic. Okay. All right. So if you have someone or a desk responsible for tracking what's ESG standards that you should be looking at that is material to your sector, then it's a good way to stay ahead of the curve when that kind of reporting becomes compulsory. Then another thing I've noticed in my practice is that the idea of ESG is always seen as a compliance issue as opposed to strategy, which is something that Dr. Irene has already touched on. It's something you need to incorporate from inception. It's not an add-on, which goes back to the idea of systems thinking. It's a holistic approach to problem solving. And no, you're not just adding this, oh, this has become important now, let's add it. This has become important. No, it's something that should be integrated. So as you are moving along, as business is growing, you are identifying certain gaps and you're able to plug it because you have established ESG KPIs and metrics. And concerning greenwashing concerns, that's a very, very interesting area, because even globally, it's something that is frowned upon and it's cracked on heavily. So what is greenwashing? Basically, greenwashing is just, using fancy words to say, oh, you're ticking all the environmental or sustainability related issues. But in reality, you are not. It's just maybe some vague statements on your website, or a vague statement from your the PRO of your company or something like that. That is greenwashing, presenting and misrepresenting the state of your commitment to climate action and how your activities as a company or organization affects the environment. So that's basically what greenwashing is. When you exaggerate your sustainability credentials to attract investment, when there is limited regulatory oversight on your activities. If I don't know how many of you have seen actual reports from the likes of Amazon, or what's this other company? I think it's Boohoo. It's a UK company. They were in trouble and they were in the news a lot of last year for greenwashing and other false claims. And if you take the time to find one of those type of reports and you go through it, as an upcoming ESG professional or ESG analyst, the kind of things you are looking at is to first identify the standards that that company is using for their reporting. And then it's a granular exercise. If you are talking about labor practices, you are looking at fair compensation, you are looking at the working environment, you are looking to ensure that there is no child labor and other unfair malpractices within that organization or industry. So those kind of that kind of attention to detail is important in addressing issues around transparency and greenwashing. Then another point that I recommend to some of my clients is to employ an external auditor. Like have third party audits so that you are able to beat your chest and say that, oh, okay, this was transparent and independent. This was an independent assessment of the steps we're taking to ensure that our reporting are accurate and just not greenwashing. And I'll say that I think it's worth mentioning that the Nigerian Exchange launched its ESG guidelines, encouraging listed companies to disclose clear and verified information. That move is a measure of accountability to Nigeria businesses, so it's absolutely important. But I know that I have delved into how we have all of these challenges and everything, but it's not all doom and gloom. ESG is a very useful tool for investor confidence. So working with small and medium enterprises that are looking to get grants, that are looking to get funding, if you have your books in order, if you have your ESG reporting in order, it's a great way to attract the funds you need for your business, because the modern concerns go beyond compensation with respect to employees and all of that. We are looking at culture in an organization. We're looking at DEI, we're looking at inclusion, we're looking at gender. There are just all of these nuances that go beyond whether your company pays a lot or not. And there is more emphasis on the ethics of a company or organization's activities. And when we are looking at things through those lenses, those very, very critical lenses, it's important that where you're looking for funding, where you're looking for capital, it's important that you have your books in order. And then ESG compliant organizations or companies, they enjoy better access. They enjoy better access to credit and favorable loan consideration. So that's an opportunity for you. If you have your reports and everything in order, it's easy to present it and say, oh, okay, this is what I'm doing around climate action. This is how our activities impact the organization, and so to speak. I think that the SMEs can leverage. Am I still within time? I see you nodding.
Yeah, please ask that you run within.
How many more minutes?
Please.
Oh my God, I have so much to say. Okay, well, basically what I will say is, again, to buttress what Doctor has said, don't wait until the standards are implemented within Nigeria. If you own a company or an organization, begin to do the work now. Do your research to ensure that as a small or medium entity, you are able to take advantage of the opportunities that ESG reporting presents for you. Thank you.
So what Mudakat has successfully for us after Dr. lead foundation, She has highlighted the challenges. I particularly liked your explanation of greenwashing, right? A lot of us do that in Nigeria today, and we probably don't even understand the implication of what we are doing. So I like the fact that you've been able to, elaborate on the common challenges. You spoke a little bit about transparency and how we could also leverage ESG to attract innovation. Thank you so much, Mudrakat. And then I would go to Olufemi Shobanjo, who will hear as the CEO of NGX regulation. Mudrakat also mentioned they've recently come up with rules. And I mean, that's where we're going to need this wealth of experience. I'd like you to take us through the ESG reporting frameworks, global and local expectations, because I know that NGX today is the institution that manages ESG in Nigeria in terms of frameworks, compliance, and all of that. I also like you to help us in terms of the sustainability disclosure guidelines, and finally, common compliance gaps and how these companies can close them. Mr. Shobanjo, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and good morning, Nicola. Good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I think when you were talking about my profile earlier, you forgot to mention the most important thing, that I'm a member of Icsan. And it is a pleasure for me to be with you this morning. Not a problem at all. I don't know if I'm audible. It's raining really
you are
heavy.
audible. You are audible. Please proceed.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you so much for having me. All right, very quickly, I am very conscious of time, and I think that the speakers before me have done an excellent job in laying out the subject for today. But I think what you specifically asked me is around the ESG reporting frameworks.
Oh dear, you're drifting. Please let's give him a few seconds, and if not, we'll go to the next round of questions. Why is the rain dealing with us today? Okay, so if we're unable to get unable to get him back, I'd ask that in preparation for the second round, we're going to be having deep insights and forward-thinking ideas towards ESG. And I'll start with Doctor again. Doctor, I want you to, for us, explore how businesses can measure ESG impact, particularly stakeholders, brands, using them as examples. Also, would like to see the future of ESG, data analytics and integrated reporting, and collaborating with investors and regulations. Please, I'd like us to cover this in 5 minutes so that we can work within our time. Doctor, please, can you take over? Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, you're audible.
Okay, thank you very much. I was also trying to maybe enter through another device, just in case, because it seems as if it's just horrible. The network is horrible, but I'll try my best using this device.
Please proceed, Doctor. Oh, is she out too?
Then if I have to change to another device.
Please proceed. We can hear you. You're quite audible now.
Okay, so you are talking about how employees can measure their ESG impact.
How businesses can measure their ESG impact, looking at several brands or stakeholders.
Oh, okay. So, 10 minutes for that. Okay, so I had joined through another device.
Up to 5 minutes for how businesses can measure their ESG impact. Also, you can cast how the future of ESG using AI, data analytics, and integrated reporting will look like, collaborating with investors and regulators. Please, 5 minutes.
Okay, so I'll go ahead quickly. So, in terms of measurements, what I tell people is that you can actually do it from measuring tangible outcomes as well as intangible outcomes. And by the time you carry out those measurements, you're actually able to see the impact that you're making, and you're also able to actually translate that into either cost savings or even into attracting financing. So if I look at the E, for example, what are the kind of things that you can measure in terms of E, depending on the type of business you are in? For example, if you are like, those in carbonated drinks area, a major issue for concern for them is around the scarcity of water, because water is not, it's not a forever type of resource, and so a lot of these carbonated companies that are into carbonated drinks, part of what they are being asked to look at is how to minimize their use of water. So if you are one that is in this area, part of what you could be tracking, for example, is your water usage, the amount of water that you are using in terms of production, and how much of the water you are replenishing through various areas. And one of the companies that I know does this is Coca-Cola. So for example, Coca-Cola introduced in collaboration with certain communities, they introduced a program that enabled them to replenish 100% of the water that they are using globally for all of their beverages. So you can see that that is quite a huge way of measuring and ensuring that there's impact, and also ensuring the sustainability of their business, because there's no way that carbonated drinks does not require water. But the point is that if you run out of usable water, then what happens to your business? So another way under the E is also measuring, for example, your carbon emissions. So one of the things to do is to measure in terms of, how much cost savings that you have been able to bring into your business as a result of introducing renewable energy. So, Kudirat had already talked to the fact of one of the things that you need to do in that area is how to measure your carbon emissions. But once you measure your carbon emissions, the question is now reducing that. So in terms of measuring how much reduction has happened, how much energy savings you have brought as a result of that, how much cost savings you have brought. Now, Google has been very good in doing that. And I'm sure some of you will be amazed to learn that Google has actually achieved carbon neutrality since 2007. And that is amazing, since 2007. And what it does is that it's now able to match 100% what it's using from electricity and as well as what it's using for renewable energy. Now, even under the E, for example, plastics, the use of plastics, waste reduction. I mentioned Unilever. Unilever, one of its priority areas is plastics, the reduction of plastic use, even to the point of stopping plastic use at some point in time. One of the recent things that they have done as a result of that is to now introduce refillable moisturizers, where you don't even have to go and buy a moisturizer anymore with plastics, but you actually go to certain stations that they have set up in certain places in US, where you just take your plastic that you've used before and then you refill it. So that's one area. Another critical area is also around social impact. Now, how do you measure social impact? And my organization is, our business model is based around that. How many jobs has your business, has your operation created? How many youths have been empowered? Empowered either in terms of training, either in terms of skill, either in terms of job creation, either in terms of asset financing. How many women have you empowered? Empowered either in terms of setting up businesses or in terms of financial inclusion. How many individuals have been able to have taken advantage of financial inclusion products? Now, it will surprise you that you can measure this from various angles. It's not necessarily because you're a bank or you're a financial institution and you're giving out these things. You can actually be enabling financial inclusion indirectly. And a good example of a company that has done that is Safaricom. We are all very much aware of Safaricom because of Kenya's story and Safaricom. Now, Safaricom is around mobile connectivity. They are just like our own MTN and all of that. So part of what they have been able to do in terms of measuring their impact is to see, okay, based on the mobile connectivity that we have brought into communities and places, how many individuals have been able to access financial products as a result of the mobile connectivity? How many individuals have been able to access education as a result of that? How many individuals have been able to access health as a result of that? That's an example. I've only answered one question, Bukola. Should I move on to the second one? Do I have time?
Well, I think you should give us. I'll come back to you, Doctor. I'll come back to you. Okay, so please, before Lufemi continues, I'd like to announce that we have presently in attendance our President and Chairman of Council, Mrs. Fumi Ekudayo, FCIS. It's a pleasure to have you here, Ma. We also have some of our council members. We have Mr. Akim Oguniro. We also have our Vice President-elect, Mr. Francis Olawale, FCIS. Thank you for joining us here. I mean, we are really excited to have you here. So, Mr. Femio Chobanjo, kindly proceed. We are so sorry we lost you. Decided to rain today.
My
Thank you.
apologies. You see,
Yes, please, we give you 3 minutes. Thank
while we are
you.
talking of the subject of ESG, environmental issues, we just got disrupted, a heavy rainstorm. But anyway, let me go very quickly since I have just 3 minutes. So just talking about the regulatory frameworks that we have, I'll start with the global frameworks. You have what they call the GRI standards, the Global Reporting Initiative. Essentially, what this does is it provides a standard, a global standard that is comprehensive on reporting ESG matters. It focuses on transparency and accountability, covering a very wide range of sustainability topics. And essentially what it seeks to do is to provide information about companies' positive or negative contributions to sustainable development. It's aligned around 3 different kinds of standards. You have what they call the GRI Universal Standards, which is really applicable to all organizations. You have GRI Sector Standards that are designed for sector specific industries or sectors. And you have topic standards, which really aligns disclosures relevant to particular topics. Of course, you then have the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. I think we're all familiar with that. There are different SDGs. Essentially, what this does is it provides a universal framework for addressing global challenges. Companies are encouraged to align reporting along these different SDGs. And I think more recently, or perhaps what I say most recently, you have the ISSB, which is the International Sustainability Standards Board, IFRS Sustainability Disclosure Standards, which is better known as the IFRS S1. I heard Dr. Irene speak about this earlier. And S2. S1 is for the general requirements for disclosure of sustainability-related financial information. S2 is for climate-related disclosures. These 2 standards, I have to say that the exchange launched this in partnership with the FRC, the Financial Reporting Council of Nigeria. Last year, it was launched at the exchange last year. And what it does is that it's giving Nigeria a national roadmap in terms of how companies will adopt this. It's not only particular to listed companies. You have companies that would, it will run up to, I think, 2028. Interestingly, you have about 5 companies that are listed that have already early adopted, and I'll mention them later on in the program. And then, of course, after the first phase, which is for listed companies, you will then go into other, what they call public interest entities, and then even private companies as well will have to adopt this. And I think what we have to understand is that before we even go further, the federal government, as president of Nigeria, has already signed Nigeria into a pact that Nigeria would be one of the countries that would early adopt this. And I think what the FRC has then done is taken a cue from that to make sure that the framework is in place. And we're already starting to see local institutions participate in this. So more awareness is clearly needed in this space. Now, on the local front, the ESG reporting framework, you have, of course, the NGX Sustainability Disclosure Standard Guidelines, which we launched, I think, in 2016 or 2017. And what that really does for listed companies, it provides their guidelines, so it provides a guide around good ESG practices and reporting in line with global ESG frameworks. It's not a tick box exercise, I have to say. It's really for companies to go beyond compliance and embrace sustainability as part of their business ethos, using a step-by-step approach to integrating sustainability into the organization's activities. I have to say that what you're seeing around sustainability reporting is moving away from this compliance tick box approach to a very subjective style of reporting, compliance reporting. When we say subjective, it means that no 2 companies will report the same. Okay, it means that you really have to really take your sustainability practices and incorporate them into your own business operations. And it also shows investors, I like what Dr. Irene had said, that it also shows a very clear path to unlocking capital. And there's a large pool of capital that is sitting internationally looking for these ESG type companies or practices that we will see. Away from the NGX sustainability guidelines, you have a number of other things. I'll talk about the Nigerian Code of Corporate Governance 2018, which we are all very familiar with as Icsan practitioners, which also highlights some good sustainability practices. You're all familiar with the Principle 28 of the code, which requires board of directors to pay adequate attention to sustainability issues, including ESG. So essentially, it puts the responsibility on the board of directors. I have to say that also the central bank perhaps was the first regulator in Nigeria that took an active role around ESG with the Nigerian Sustainability Banking Principles back in 2011, 2012. The Bankers Committee actually, and this is the beauty about this, it wasn't just CBN that directed. The Bankers Committee, which is a body that has the CBN leads with all the CEOs of banks, and they actually designed these principles, and it really shows how banks would operate, how they would report their sustainability practices, how they would address gender issues, how they would lend around environmental issues, and a number of other things. And I think you'll find that within Nigeria, most of the banks are well ahead as far as ESG is concerned. And this is really because of this leadership and foresight that the CBN had taken back in 2011. Of course, you then have bodies like the Financial Services Regulation Coordinating Committee, called the FSRCC. In 2018, this is a body of all the financial sector regulators in Nigeria, led by the CBN, of course, the SEC, NICOM, PENCOM, all of them got together and said, okay, we like what the CBN has done for the banking sector. We will now want to do this across the entire financial services industry. And I think what was then, that now led to what they call the Nigerian Sustainable Finance Principles. So the FSRCC came out with this framework and has now tasked all the sector regulators to actually bring out their own sectorial guidelines. And of course, the SEC took a cue from that in 2021 and issued what they call the Guidelines on Sustainable Finance Principles for the Nigerian capital market. And this applies to companies that are listed, to capital market operators, very similar to what the banking sector did, 5 major broad areas focused on environmental. And you'll find that even financing critical sectors, like what Dr. Irene had said about Access Bank on lending to areas around gender, areas around, you'll find if you look at TV commercials now, you're seeing people saying the banks lending to things like renewable energy and other areas like that. So it's really not a nice to have any longer. It's really a way of life, and it's a journey that I think all hands really have to be on deck. I think the regulators have taken a big initiative. We're seeing companies, particularly companies that are listed, early adopting. What that shows is that it gives them the advantage of having a good hands-on experience before the reporting deadline, so they can make their mistakes now, and this is the time for them to adjust. The critical thing here is that the frameworks are there. Of course, they don't apply to all. So the S1, S2 has a national roadmap for implementation. Of course, if you're a listed company, then the sustainability guidelines would also apply. I like the concept of the explanation around greenwashing. I think what we will find from a regulator's perspective is that greenwashing sometimes is not just about lying, it's also about even exaggerating. So you might actually be doing some things, but you might be saying you're doing more than you're actually doing. And I think that as we continue to evolve, you'll find that the regulatory regime here would then take a more active enforcement approach to greenwashing here. But I think the first thing is let's even develop first. And we're happy with the sort of response that we're seeing within the marketplace. But of course, a lot more still has to be done between now and 2028. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Olufemi. You are really giving us a lot. So this topic is quite loaded, but we're working almost behind schedule, and we have less than 25 minutes to go. So I will quickly move to Mudra Kat, and I'll ask her to give us a few words on what the role of technology and digital tools will play in terms of ESG data collection, and also case insights into successful integration. Please Can you do this in 2 minutes? Thank you. Mudrakat, are you still here? Okay, so if Mudrakat isn't here, Dr. Irene, I know you have 2 other questions to answer. The future of ESG using data analytics, AI, collaborating with investors. Can you also close this in 2 minutes, please? Thank you.
Okay, very tall order, but I'll try. So in terms of AI, the future of AI is quite integral. And I think part of what AI is going to help us to do is basically, first of all, to minimize the potential for greenwashing. And why do I say minimize the potential for greenwashing? Because by the time you have an AI tool that will first of all be one where you're feeding in the data. So whether it's around, your carbon emissions, regarding the renewable energy you've implemented and the savings that has come in as a result of that. That tool is going to help you in terms of that data because you are feeding in the data into that tool. And so when it's now doing an analysis to say, okay, how many jobs have I created? What is the percentage of reduction I've done in carbon emission? The AI helps you to automatically generate of the data that you are putting. So that will also minimize. Now, another thing that the AI is going to help us to do is ESG reporting. In fact, first of all, even in terms of your double materiality assessment and risk assessment to come up with your metrics and your strategies and your priority areas for ESG. Now, I have been exposed to 2 AI tools, ESG AI tools. Now, what those tools do is that, first of all, they have done like industry-wide data, which shows that in certain sectors, these are the kind of high priority issues that affect them in terms of ESG. These are the type of critical matters that are necessary for their corporate growth and corporate strategy. So they already have all that information, first of all. So by the time you go to your own stakeholders and you get all the information around, oh, this is important, this is important, this is important, and you use that ESG tool. The ESG tool combines that information you fed in with all the industry sector related issues, as well as the regulatory requirements across various sectors they are working on. Because like I said, there are lots of Nigerian companies now have clients abroad. I have clients abroad, and there are certain requirements that they need to have. So by the time you feed it into that ESG tool, what that tool then helps you to do is that it then generates what are your high priority areas as a result of all of that. So you can see that it even does the risk assessment. It's now made easy. Then, like I said, by the time you now start doing, it helps you now to generate the KPIs and the metrics that you should start tracking as a result of that high priority area. And it also helps you in terms of data quality, like I said, because you're now feeding in the metrics that he has told you to bring out. So those are some of the things it does from that area. Now, in terms of collaboration, there are lots of areas do I have time to quickly talk about collaboration, Bukola?
No, please. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, so Olufemi, I have one more question, but I would like you to answer that question in 1 minute, please. I would like you to help us highlight a practical case study of ESG reporting success here in Nigeria today.
Okay, a practical case in 1 minute. I think
Please.
what I would say is this, rather than pick on one company, so that I'm not seen to be promoting one over others. I think in Nigeria, we currently have, I think, 5 companies that have chosen to early adopt the S1 and S2 standards. So of course, you have Access Bank, you have Fidelity, you have MTN, you have Seplat, and I think you have Dangote Cement. I mentioned earlier about the banking sector sort of being already having a head start because of the CBN guidelines that came out in 2012. I think what you'll find with the banks generally is that they were already set up as far as the structure is concerned, right? So they already had a sustainability structure from board level to the sustainability practitioners, a proper structure around units and all of that. And so they had been doing sustainability reporting and all of that, integrating that in their business. So I think that was relatively maybe more straightforward or more seamless for them. Of course, what they were just getting adjusted to was some of the new regulatory requirements. But as far as the structure and like any new compliance regulation, you found that. Then you look at the different industries, like a Seplat, which is an oil and gas company in the exploration space, for example, or a Dangote Cement, which is heavily industrialized. And so the challenges that these other companies would have had is that one, in the oil and gas space, the challenges that they face, for example, the environmental issues in oil exploration, oil spillage, and all of those types of things, having to come to grips with that. I think that being listed companies, particularly large companies, Dangote Cement, of course, some of them even premium board listed, would have made it a little bit easier. Okay, complying with regulation is one thing, having the structure is another thing, but then the sector, oil and gas exploration, production, oil, cement, all of that large industrial challenges. But I think, by and large, learning, I would also say taking learnings, local, other peers. What I find is that sometimes, colleagues, you can't know everything, right? Particularly when something is new. And I have to say that it's even new for even the regulators, not just in Nigeria, but also globally. So a lot of collaboration, seeking guidance, seeking clarification, local partners, local, international, and all of that, going to functions like this, creating awareness, sharing information. And I think what we're trying to also promote is for these companies that have early adopted to actually help handhold other companies, right? To say, okay, look, these are the things we've done. These are the challenges these are the mistakes we made. These are the lessons we learned. This is what you think you can do to avoid some of those things, because there's nothing like a practical experience. The fortunate thing is that when you're early adopting, you wouldn't really find any repercussions. There won't be consequences, because this is not the hard deadline for you, right? You're early adopting, so this is a time for you to learn and all of those kind of things. I think that would be the way to respond to that that question.
Thank you very much. You went a little bit over time, but thank you so much. Okay, so I think at this point we've come to the end. I'd like to say thank you to all our speakers for those impactful presentations, for those for the explanations, for the briefing and all that. But now we'll have a brief panel discussion and audience for questions and answers. So there's been a question on my mind where I can see a number of people have also come up with those questions. And so I'll just summarize those questions. I have one important question that summarizes what a lot of people have been asking. So with me as well, what artificial intelligence tools can we use for ESG today to help us, work in line with what have been discussing and to further avoid greenwashing as much as possible? I don't know who would answer that question. I don't know if Mudra Kat is back. If not, Dr. Irene, and then Olufemi would also say something in 30 seconds. Dr. Irene, can you quickly give us an answer to that?
Okay, so there are several. There's one that is called RIM. There's one that is called RIM. Yes, RIM. So if you Google that on RIM, then there's one that is being used by the South African Stock Exchange, and is also being used by the Ghana Stock Exchange. I'm trying to remember the name of the lady. It's called ESG in something. But one of the things I can do is to provide that information to Icsan at the end. But RIM is one of those that, in fact, like I said, has it. Then that's South African one as well. And in fact, I know the two, both RIM and the second one I talked about, they're actually in Nigeria, and they've started providing for those companies which are interested in using those.
Can you give us the spelling of RIM for the audience to
RIMM.
RIMM. Okay, thank you so much. That was very Olufemi, will you quickly give us a 30 seconds response in case you have another one? Thank you.
On the AI tools, I think that Dr. Irene has covered that.
All right.
The second one is Risk Insights. Sorry, Risk Insights. I remember the second one, Risk Insights. Yes, Risk Insights.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry, Femi, I didn't want to forget again.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think that answers the question.
All right, that's fine. That's fine. We've used our time. I think I'll give the audience one more opportunity to ask a question. Can I see hands raised? Just one more question. I can see Blessing. Blessing, please, can you unmute yourself and ask your question?
Thank you. Thank you, moderator, and thank you, panel member, for the beautiful section and presentation. I totally enjoyed it, but I have a question for Femi. And my question is around the biggest barrier. As a regulator, right, what are the biggest barrier for Nigerian companies in adopting ESG reporting when it comes to regulatory compliance, cost, or awareness? And
Thank you
sorry,
very much.
Olufemi, did you hear me clearly? Okay, thank you.
Yes,
I
it
did. So
was.
you're basically
Okay.
saying that what are the challenges
Yeah.
that we see as regulators from companies?
Yes, in adopting ESG, especially when it comes to compliances, costs, or awareness. What are the challenges?
Okay, so I think that awareness and understanding is one issue. I think that most companies are used to sort of compliance tick box approach. And of course, a lot of them are used to typical financial reporting, amongst a number of other things, regulatory reporting, but not something that is a bit more subjective and customized. So a lack of awareness and understanding. So I think there needs to be, there's this massive knowledge gap. And so a lot of training and a lot of capacity building needs to go into this thing, because with sustainability reporting, it's really about your business. It's really about your sector. How does it affect you? How have you incorporated sustainability into your business operations? And that is what you are expected to report to the regulators. That is what you're expected to report to the investing public as a listed company, versus a tick box approach. That shift, that paradigm shift. And this basically means that you have to nail down to your value chains, right? Your supply chains and all of that. It goes along the whole flow. And that's what you're going to be reporting. And it's, taking different steps that leads into the overall picture. Then someone, I think it was Mudara, that mentioned insufficient data collection. I think that some companies may struggle with collecting data, having the necessary data relevant for their own comprehensive ESG reporting. And I think I must say that in Nigeria, we might also find that there's a lack of a standardized data collection process. So you might find that this also leads to some inconsistencies in some of the reporting that we see. Then, of course, limited, would I say, resources, expertise, even though we've mentioned just in general lack of awareness and capacity, but I find that particularly within smaller companies, they might lack the financial, the human resources to implement critical ESG reporting practices. And of course, perhaps a shortage of the manpower, trained professionals with expertise in this area could also be another major challenge as well. We could add that there might also be some regulatory uncertainty, right? So whilst we note that from an NGX point of view, you've seen the sustainability guidelines, you've seen the S1, S2, but I think generally across board, perhaps for companies that are not listed and all of that, you'll find that there might be a bit of confusion around what are we supposed to be doing, what's the process, who are we reporting to, and all of those kind of things that will be there. So for listed companies, it might be a bit clearer, but perhaps for companies that are not listed. Integrating with existing reporting frameworks is another critical issue. How do you align this ESG reporting with already existing financial reporting systems, which can be very cumbersome and can be very complex? You're used to producing annual accounts. Now you're saying produce sustainability reports. Some might want to integrate their sustainability reporting within the same account, the annual account. Some might want to do it differently in two different reports, which we've seen a lot of the bigger companies do. But integrating it, this is non-financial with your financial data records would be something that is some people find very challenging. Of course, I can go on, but I was going to say greenwashing. There's also the risk of greenwashing as well, but yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Olufemi. So we are almost far gone. Please, before I proceed, I'd like to also recognize the presence of Mrs. Uto Upana, FCIS, President-elect Icsan. Thank you so much, Ma, for joining us. I see several hands up. I'm sorry we might not be able to take all the hands, but we lost Mudra Cat to rain on network, and I understand she is giving us a voice note of under 1 minute. So I would give Folake the opportunity to play that. After that, I'll take one more question from Rafiat, and then we'll round up. Thank you so much. It's quite an insightful session, and if we continue like this, we might not leave on time. Thank you.
Thank
Folake,
you,
please.
everyone. Yes, unfortunately, our speaker, Mudrakat, is having issues with her connection. She's tried and tried to rejoin, but she hasn't been able to. But that's what you get when you have passionate speakers. She sent me a voice note that she wants me to play because she had a response to a point that Dr. Irene made regarding AI. So hopefully you can hear it.
Thank you,
Hello,
Madam Chair.
sorry about the technical difficulties. I went off for a minute there. The point I went off, I just wanted to make a point about the use of AI. Now, while the use of AI can be helpful and can detect ESG trends and data and all of that, well, it can be helpful. I think it's important to also state that the use of AI has detrimental effects on the environment. So we need to be careful as companies and organizations how to strike that balance. For instance, in AI, there are AI software that are more eco-conscious. Some of the proceeds for their proceeds go towards environmental causes. So an ethical and a Christian company would go towards eco-based AI companies as opposed to the regular chat GPT and all of that. So I think that there is a delicate balanced stroke with respect to the use of AI for reporting and companies and interest using AI tools.
That's it. I hope you
Thank
heard
you
it.
so much. Thank you so much. So we have 7 minutes left. I'm sorry I might not be able to take other questions. I'll ask that you kindly send your questions via the chat, and I promise we will revert to you accordingly. At this point, I want to say thank you again to our panelists sincerely. We want to appreciate you, Dr. Irene Robinson Ayowale, Mudrakat Alabi McFoy, and Olufemi Shobanjo for sharing this valuable insights on ESG integration and strategy. And to our audience, we want to say thank you for participating. Let's continue to champion sustainable practices and responsible governance in our respective industries. We also want to thank the chairman of the Governing Council, FCIS, Mrs. Fumi Ekundayo. We also want to thank the VP, Mrs. Uto Okpana. We want to thank the chair of Lagos chapter. I want to thank all our other Icsan members. We want to appreciate you for giving us the opportunity to do this. Mr. Francis Oyewale, Vice President, we want to say thank you, sir, FCIS. We want to appreciate all of you, and thank you for giving us your time. And we pray that God will bless us in our respective endeavors. Let's all continue to champion sustainable practices and responsible governance in our respective industries. Wishing us all continued success. Thank you, everybody, and have a nice day. We'll now look forward to receiving the vote of thanks from the VP. Thank you very much. VP, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Well, we actually have a plaque presentation for the speakers, a virtual plaque presentation to show our appreciation that our speakers took out time to give this insightful presentation. And we all know that conversations like this, if we were to pay for them, we would pay a lot. So I think the best or the least we could do is just to give them plaques so they could remember, even in the future, that they were here, they discussed ESG, and we appreciated them. So the first person I would be giving that virtual plaque presentation to will be Dr. Irene. Robinson Ayowale. Thank you for bringing in conversations on strategy and the need for us to adopt ESG in our practices. I like the way you broke down the presentation and made it easy, moving from our initial perception of it being an abstract topic to a live and functional topic that functional area that we need to adopt in Nigerian businesses. So I would say thank you, Dr. Irene, and I hope you would come back anytime we need to have this conversation again.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate you. Thank you.
Okay, so the physical plaques will be sent to your offices. The next person will be making this presentation to be Mudra Kat Alabi McFoy. I don't know if she's been able to come in, but if she's not here, I'm sure she will hear that we appreciated her. I thank her for bringing on the insights on system thinking and that ESG is no longer that of a global ideal, but a strategic imperative for all of us working in as professionals in our various businesses. So we thank her for her insightful presentation and for even sending in that voice note to ensure that we do not leave here without remembering the hazards that could come with the use of AI tools. So thank you, Mudrakat Alabi McFoy. And we hope that you would come in again when we need to have conversations like this. And the next also is Mr. Olufemi Shobanjo. Thank you for taking us through the roadmap. Thank you for giving us insights into the reporting standards for Nigerian businesses and what we should expect in the nearest future as professionals. So I would say thank you for giving us your time today. And please, when we call on you again, please respond to our call. And I must also thank our very own Bukola Cole ACIS for moderating this session excellently. I know that it must have not been a very easy 1 week trying to engage every one of you on this call. So we are going to leave this platform believing and happy that we had this conversation and it prepares us for the future of ESG in our Nigerian businesses. So I'll call on the Vice Chairman, Mr. Adebola Babatunde FCIS, to give his vote of thanks if he's on this call. I don't know if he's here.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
I hope you can hear me.
You're audible,
network
Vice
is really
Chair.
sorry.
Yes, we can.
Thank you very much to all our speakers for being
Have we lost the Vice Chairman to network issues again? Okay, so I don't keep everyone waiting. Maybe I'll just quickly say thank you. On behalf of Icsan Lagos State Chapter, we say thank you to everyone who joined us on this call. To our speakers, we were eternally grateful for the insights into the discussion. It was quite engaging and eye-opening to the practices of ESG. Thank you for really breaking it down for every one of us to understand so that we stop seeing it as one of those abstract topics. I want to thank the President, Chairman, Governing Council, Mrs. Fumi Ekundaya FCIS, for joining us on this call. Mrs. Uto Okpana FCIS, the Vice President, for also joining us, and Honorary Treasurer, Mr. Francis Olawale FCIS. And I know sometime on the call, we had the past president, Mr. Hakim Ogunero, FCIS. We had Ms. Ronke Opajo BFCIS on the call. We want to say thank you to all of them for taking out their time to join us to have this discussion, which it's a must for every professional to put, not just as a box ticking exercise anymore, but as an ideal in strategic and leadership thinking for any business. For those who actually want a certificate, on the flyer, if you had seen the flyer, you would see that there's an account number that was represented there for payment. So you can discuss with the secretariat and they would get your certificates to you. I would say this now brings us to the end of this session. We're hoping that you would all again respond to our call when we have other events in the year. And just for a save the date purpose, in October, we'll be having our summit. So please save the date and do not leave the country because it will be a physical event. So at least towards the end of October, we'll be hoping that we have every one of us for a physical event so that we can all network and share insights as professionals. Okay, so the account number is on the screen. So for those who want certificates and for those who have made payments, please send a mail or reach out to the phone number on your screen to make it easy for you to get those certificates. I sincerely thank everyone for staying on to this time, and God bless you. So while we're leaving, we would still leave, Secretary, please still leave the account number on the screen so those who haven't taken it down could take it down. Thank you, everyone. And to members of the ESCO on the call, I can see the Honorary Secretary, I can see the Assistant, that's the Honorary Secretary, Chief Adewale Adeniji, the Assistant Mobilization Secretary, Oladoyin Onanuga, the Assistant Financial Secretary, Mr. Bukola Oyekunle, the Assistant Honorary Secretary, Damilola Akinpelu, the Mobilization Secretary, Julie Bassey. I want to thank everyone for putting their hands together to ensure that this event was a success, including the planning committee members who have worked tirelessly on this, and also the Assistant Publicity Secretary, Mamoke Ovesor, who has been on her toes to ensure that we have a widespread of this information. At least we're able to have like about 131 persons on this call. So that was quite impressive, given the time the information went out. So thank you. I'm sure we have the account details now, so we can call it a day. I wish you a fulfilling day and God bless you. Bye-bye.